Welcome back to the Nurses Investing for Wealth mini-series podcast. I'm Angel Mathis, the founder of Nurses Investing for Wealth, and this is where I'm sharing with you the big picture look you need to confidently take action and turn your nursing salary into work optional freedom once and for all. The nursing exodus has a lot of people in healthcare talking about money. By this point, it's a well-known problem. In the US and globally, healthcare systems are facing a nursing exodus, meaning a lot of nurses are leaving. In recent years, nurses have been leaving an already short-staffed profession faster than they're getting replaced. There's already a critical worldwide nursing shortage. In the US, studies are forecasting this will continue to get worse across the next decade. In this context, the topic of money comes up in interesting and complicated ways. For nurses themselves, money has become an emotional and moral issue as much as a practical one. Most of us work for organizations that make a lot of money. And during the pandemic, and now due to the ongoing staffing crisis, we're acutely aware that our job requires us to regularly put our physical and mental well-being and even our lives at risk. It keeps these questions at the front of our minds. Why shouldn't we get a cut of the profits from this? Why should we have to exhaust ourselves at work, then go home and worry about money or making ends meet for our family? And sometimes even, why shouldn't we be able to afford to live in the expensive cities or communities where our jobs are located? Have you ever heard the term comparable worth? It's a synonym for pay equity. Even if you think you've heard this, stick with me for a second because I don't hear enough nurses or advanced practice nurses talking about this. And when I hear corporate healthcare leaders talk about it, it makes me sick. Comparable worth focuses on the worth that a position has to a company. So two very different professions within one organization could be found to have the same value. I have a friend who works in HR. Her job is financial compensation data analysis. She knows a lot about how big organizations dole out their money through pay and bonuses. We were discussing pay inequity in large organizations, specifically why money gathers at the tops of organizations and is unequally distributed down. One of the things that she told me is that leaders can easily justify higher executive pay and bonuses because it can take many months, potentially years, to replace these folks at the top. But people in the front lines, those who are actually doing the work, are often considered replaceable within 2 to 3 months. It's cold. Now, I don't believe that you are replaceable, so I'm going to start there. But when I heard her say this, it stung. But here's what's more important. For a second, I did believe it, which gets to the point of how we need to be careful of what stories are being allowed to be told, especially at the tops of organizations. To be clear, my friend and I weren't talking about nursing or healthcare even. Her job is in tech, but the same line of thinking exists inside the healthcare industry. It's why hospital administrator pay has ballooned while nurses fight with their unions for measly salary increases that barely keep up with inflation. For example, the CEO of Hospital Corporation of America made over $30 million in 2020. In that year, nurses were making $50,000 to $100,000 depending on where they were in the country, and advanced practice nurses maybe made double that max. By dollars alone, this would indicate that healthcare systems feel like a CEO's value is 300 times more than a nurse's value. And it's why leaders such as the American Hospital Association has felt justified in their actions to ask for Congress to investigate high travel nurse pay. Because they can craft a story that overinflates the value of leaders and undervalues the patients who they are meant to serve and all those who actually show up to do the work inside organizations. And if this isn't a lesson in power, I don't know what is. An executive team of leaders convinces the right people, those people who have control of the purse strings inside an organization, that they, as the CEO and the leadership board, are irreplaceable, or the leadership team are irreplaceable. So this helps the leaders of an organization feel justified funneling disproportionate amounts of money to the top. Patients' money that's meant to be paying for their care delivery, not some exorbitant CEO with an inflated sense of self-worth. So while all this is happening and top paid leaders collect their $1 million bonuses and all the sycophants around them justify it, talking about how difficult they would be to replace, what is actually happening is that organizations are stealing money from their patients and robbing the nurses and staff who are doing the work by intentionally short-staffing them, creating burnout environments, and happily setting up the conditions that exacerbated the nursing exodus in the first place. Because nurses can be replaced in 2 to 3 months, unlike a CEO. I think as nurses, we can smell what's rotten here right away. We know it's unethical and it's flat out wrong. Sarah D. Gregorio, who wrote the excellent book, Taking Care, said, unlike the correlation between nurse staffing and patient outcomes, researchers have found no correlation between hospital CEO pay and hospital mortality, readmission rates, or value to the community. Read her book. It's so good. The book Bullshit Jobs talks about how nursing will never be a bullshit job because nurses are out there doing the work. Read it if you have any doubt about the importance of what you do as a nurse or advanced practice nurse. It will make you feel good about yourself. So when it comes to pay, we need to think of ourselves as irreplaceable, invaluable parts of the healthcare system. We cannot be swapped out, and we need to be ready to spot these bullshit arguments from the people who hold the bullshit jobs and counter them, because if we don't, then the money keeps flowing to the top and the nursing exodus continues. For nurses, salary negotiation is most obviously about the question of fair compensation for what we're asked to endure and the essential service we provide. Salary negotiation is most obviously about the question of fair compensation for what we're asked to endure and the essential service we provide. The same issues that lead us to feel like we can't deal with this anymore, which we covered in earlier episodes, but for a quick recap: burnout from stressful work environments, inadequate staffing, lack of leadership, moral injury, and institutional betrayal. These same issues lead us to feel like we should be paid well if we decide to keep working in the field. Sarah D. Gregorio says about this in her book, The Sentiment from Nurses, that you can treat me poorly or pay me poorly, but not both. I'd like to see us not tolerate either. But let's say that this is just about pay. We need more pay transparency. And we deserve to be able to find the top paying jobs that will let us stretch our salaries the furthest. So when I asked Veronica Cooper, founder of Stellar Nurse, about this, here's what she said.
Stellar Nurse was important for me to create because me and my fellow travel nurses were all struggling with the same issues. We didn't have enough pay transparency, and we didn't have objective market overviews so that we could land the highest paying jobs and feel confident that we're getting the best deal. I started travel nursing in 2016, and I quickly realized that we nurses were on the short end of a power imbalance in this job market. Our nursing skills are in critical need, and our inboxes are full of travel nursing job offers, yet our employers have more access to job market information than we do. Even to see full job details on open offers, we have to give up all of our contact info, only to be spanned into eternity with low-paying jobs that aren't even worth a click. The travel nursing job market releases 15,000 new jobs every day, and there's a large variability in pay across specialties and locations that change and update week to week. How can we nurses feel confident that we're getting paid our value if we don't understand a nurse's worth in this job market? This knowledge gap results in mistrust and resentment between our employers and us travel nurses. My travel nursing friends and I trade tips to avoid getting lowballed, and we help look over each other's contracts so we don't get stuck in a bad deal. I started tracking pay packages on a spreadsheet years ago so that I wouldn't get taken advantage of either. We're always on high alert when we're discussing jobs with these agencies to avoid getting scammed. But if we make pay more transparent and if we share knowledge, then that makes everyone feel valued, and it gives everyone the same access to information and opportunities. On Stellar Nurse, nurses can find all the highest paying travel nursing jobs in one search, and we have clear job market overviews to make spotting the best deals easy. This is information that has not been available to us nurses until now. Nurses can view pay trends going back all the way to July 2019, which is pre-COVID, to see how our pay has changed in years. Stellar Nurse helps redistribute power back to the nurse by providing pay transparency and clear market data. This knowledge helps us understand our worth, a nurse's worth, in this job economy. Stellar Nurse also allows nurses to message hiring agencies anonymously to make sure the best deals are legitimate before giving up your contact info. I built Stellar Nurse to help us nurses make informed career decisions, stretch our salaries, and negotiate our pay from a place of confidence and knowledge. So go check out Stellar Nurse. Let me know what you think, and let me know if we're on the right track.
Veronica gets it. She sees the problem and she's doing something about it. And so if you want to access her help, go to stellarnurse.com. I'll drop the link below as well. Veronica hasn't yet expanded into nurse practitioner contract transparency, but hopefully she will in the future. Pay transparency is important. And it's not just nurses talking about pay. Employers talk a lot about nursing compensation too. Maybe I'm being cynical, but my impression is that employers care much less about the moral and emotional aspects of this. The main issue for administrators is how to best run their business and what pay equation will make the most profits. It's generally agreed that turnover is expensive and is therefore bad for business. So the nursing exodus is creating major headaches for them, but they are fundamentally numbers issues. Answers to some of the specific administrative questions raised by the nursing exodus aren't obvious. How much do we decide to budget for nursing salaries versus other expenses? How likely are nurses to quit if we don't increase that budget? How much money will it cost us if they do quit versus if they stick around? How much will PR cost us if nurses strike versus if we keep strong-arming them? Or how much does burnout cost us versus safe staffing? And I have even read some business articles that are making an argument that it's better business practice to burn nurses out to make more money. Yes, our labor is getting commodified, and quite intentionally by some. It is gross. Even though these ideas are on the table, the main focus always seems to return to salaries. How much should nurses and advanced practice nurses get paid to come to work? For nurses and for businesses, wages are an important discussion, but it's not the entire discussion. Globally and historically, nursing has been underpaid compared to other comparable professions. Also, increased pay is correlated with improved retention, to some degree, at least in the short term. Improved retention is good for businesses. There's a solid argument to be made that higher pay leads to more people entering the field and more nurses hesitant to leave it. Generally speaking, by increasing nursing wages in the midst of all of this mess, everyone wins. I'll always have your back when it comes to demanding higher pay because you deserve it. But I need you to come along with me as we tease two parts of the pay argument apart. You deserve comparable pay. You deserve to be paid well for the work you do. You deserve for organizations to involve you in their compensation discussions and create equitable pay distributions across the board. But pay is not the answer to the nursing exodus. In the midst of all the discussion around salary, there's a stubborn problem when looking at the data. And that's the fact that nursing burnout rates are not significantly impacted by increased wages. We know this through data and research. Here's what we know increased nursing wages gives: lower overall life stress, improved job satisfaction, lower desire to leave the job. However, many of the key factors that ultimately drive nurses out of the field don't change with wage increases. Those are toxic work environments, unsafe staffing ratios, and low levels of control over important decisions in the workplace. It makes sense. It's not our paycheck that burns us out. It's the work itself. Even if they're paying us more to be thrown to the wolves, we're still being thrown to the wolves. The factors that drive the nursing exodus are complicated. So all of us, nurses and healthcare leadership, have a complicated problem to solve across the next few decades. Wage increases are part of that solution, but only one small part. Factors like improving our work environment, improving staffing ratios, improving interactions between nurses, doctors, and administrators, and giving nurses more input into crucial decisions in the workplace are just as important, if not more so. And this is why we need to think beyond pay. The hard news for those of us in the field is that problems driving the nursing exodus are not likely to be solved in our lifetime, or at least in the time that we'll be in the field. That raises a different question for nurses about money altogether, and it's entirely absent from most of these discussions. This question is, how do we manage our money in a way that will allow us to survive in the midst of a nursing exodus? The problem nurses face is that our situation is very hard. A huge number of us are leaving and won't make it to retirement in this profession. It's difficult to measure, but multiple reports say that nurses burn out at a rate higher than any other profession. Even if our wages increase, we won't see the benefits because we can't emotionally and physically handle it anymore. In all likelihood, if you're a nurse, you'll be impacted by this. You may burn out as well. You may not survive long enough in the field to reach traditional retirement age. You may not survive the next 5 years if you have to keep working full-time in these conditions. Our financial reality is that regardless of wage increases, we may not earn at our current level throughout our lives because we may not be able to handle working the hours or jobs that we do now. So, our dilemma, alongside with the wage question, is how do we financially prepare for this reality? It's a significant stressor for many nurses I work with, but outside of here's your 401k and talk to a financial advisor, I don't hear unions or HR departments talking about this. So the question stands, how should you manage your finances in a burnout role? And that's what we'll talk about in the next episode when we talk to a nurse practitioner who has been there, done that. Maureen is one of those nurses who was at the end of her rope and realized it wasn't her paycheck that was the problem. It was her absolutely horrible working conditions. She had to get out, but she faced one huge dilemma. How would she financially sustain it? We're going to talk about exactly what we did that fixed that in the next episode. If you're in a burnout role and you're ready to stretch your salary to get the most out of it, then you've got to get my free training. Go to learn.nursesinvesting.com so you can stop being confused about what next step to take and start learning. You'll learn the tactics that turn farmers and teachers into millionaires. They worked for Maureen, the nurse and MP who you'll meet next episode, but more importantly, they will work for you too. If you are so ready to become work optional in 1 hour a month, then head over to learn.nursesinvesting.com. I'll also tell you how to get 12 continuing nursing education credits and how to get your employer to pay you while you do this work. The highest paid work you'll ever do in your life. It's the best employment hack I've ever created, a course that shows you how to become financially independent, free from your employer, and that your employer pays for. Click the link below in the notes or type in learn.nursesinvesting.com into your internet browser to get started setting up your financial independence plan. Tune into the next episode where we'll pick right back up talking with a nurse practitioner so near the end of her rope that she was sick. Her only regret was that she didn't do the work inside my program sooner. I'll see you there or in the free training, maybe both. Together, let's keep turning one nurse's financial independence into another nurse's power.